Hi, I'm Oliver Patrice Weder and this is my sample library OPW, which I've released alongside my debut album with the same name and in collaboration with SA Recordings and Spitfire Audio. I'm very excited about this, of course, an album that's been in the making for about 2 years. I've been traveling around loads, living in different places, traveling through different countries, collecting sounds, being inspired, and that's the concept of the album as well. So now this sample library is actually an extension of the album. So I've used some of the sounds on the album, but then I've dived back into the sessions and chosen the nicest sounds and then kind of resampled it. And so you can actually use it as a fully fledged toolkit. And I'm just going to take you through the sections, play you some sounds here and there. So let me show you what's in there. So we have Oliver's piano, which is a piano that I bought in London about 5 years ago. I bought it for very cheap. I've treated it. I put olive oil on it. I cleaned it all, I made it all super nice, and I absolutely love the sound. Unfortunately, I had to leave it in Amsterdam last year when I moved to Madrid now, but luckily I've sampled it, so it's got a small, low felt, a kind of a thin felt on top. So it's got the character of a felt, but you can actually play it also for other stuff, or use it for other stuff. So it's kind of the heart piece of the library, and I really dearly miss this piano, and I'm so glad it's in this library forever. And I mean, if you listen to the album, you can hear the piano is featured in almost all the songs, all the tracks. So I quite love it because you can play it real soft and also kind of smash it, kind of hit it harder, and there is 4 dynamic layers and 2 round robins, so it gives you kind of a really diverse and honest sound. And I had some good experience actually already with this one, using it on project where I heard some nice things about it. I EQ'd it my way, and from experience how I like a piano to be EQ'd, which is take out on the low mids a little bit where you make it muddy, so you can actually play the chords here, and it's quite rich and full, but keeping it light, and it doesn't get in the way of, like, let's say, a dialogue in a film, or it lets the right hand sit nicely on top. So kind of my preferred sound right there. And then here you have the usual controls. So you have reverb, release on certain sounds, which you can adjust here. And then something really cool, IRs. I created my own IRs for you. So we have different reverbs. So I run them through different reverb units and effects pedals, etc. And let's just hear it on the piano. If we, for example, have Supernatural here, turn it up quite a bit. It's quite long, it's moving a little bit. Then, for example, let's say a gentle delay reverb. You can play around, and the good thing is you can use these IRs and these reverbs on all of the sounds individually. So there's actually a lot of opportunity there, mix-wise and sound sculpting-wise, I guess. Then Oliver's soft piano is just the lowest layer, the lowest dynamic. And if we turn up here, the dynamic control, which here controls the velocity layer. turn that reverb up, of course. The glacial reverb is kind of the standard one that we use on a lot of the sounds. I really like it. If you have other ones, you can hear it actually much better and much longer. Anyway, a lot of fun to play with, and I mean, this soft piano, I quite like it. Of course, taking a little bit of inspiration by the soft piano of Spitfire Audio as well. But I guess there's nothing wrong with that, because that one is absolutely insane. And then I've put my piano through lots of different effects, and I'm just going to play you a little bit. It's just different kind of delays and sparkly stuff, which you can hear on the album quite a lot. Quite magical. And I've got some glacier stuff in there, different glaciers, for example, Aletsch Glacier, of course. I'm Swiss. Had to bring the Alps in there. So that one is quite a long, deep kind of sound. Absolutely love it. It's really all over the album. Piano rolls is a thing that I thought I would be using on the album, but I haven't. But then I still included it in the sample library for you to have it. Can change the release of this, for example, have it quite high up already. Quite like that, actually. So that's the piano section. Then we've got a flugelhorn in there, which features in one of the tracks. And the flugelhorn player is a jazz trumpet player called Alistair from Amsterdam, a connection I've made when I lived there. And I have the longs in there, pretty much, obviously. Performed real nice. She's done a bit of an improvisation on there as well, which is super cool. I'm using here the mod wheel. So this one features in a track called A Night in Santa Teresa, which is favelas in Rio de Janeiro. And I wanted kind of a smoky sound. And I was thinking about baritone sax or maybe a trumpet. And then when we recorded the string section here, actually the engineer, Harry, he was like, why don't you try a flugelhorn, you know? Do you have a bit of a smokier sound and it's a bit more romantic? And I was like, mate, this is the perfect idea. And I've recorded some extra articulations. Sounds fantastic on the album, in my opinion. She's done a great job. And then in the end of the session, I just grabbed some effects as well. Oh, and something cool, we've stretched it all the way down here. That's quite insane. Kind of a low flugelhorn there we've created. Pads, couple of pads, glacier. Again, that's just a very gentle touch there. Very haunting, quite like that sound. It's a sound I didn't use on the album either, that just came about afterwards when I was creating the library. It just inspired me to do this. And this, I think I've done some pole stretch, if I remember myself correctly. Just a really lovely pad sound there, useful for all kind of scoring to picture, etc. Then the tempo synced stuff is all done with my Wurlitzer. So all the sounds, so my Wurlitzer is quite crooked and old in that sense. It suffered from previous touring, etc. And all these sounds have been made with that, and it has this specific kind of warmth and roughness. Is roughness a word? Rawness to it. So this one I absolutely love, one of my favorites. Really cool. And of course, as said, if you change the tempo here on the host, it syncs it, which is really cool. And here again, I mean, in my album, it's a Wurlitzer, so the octaves are much shorter. So I've only used the sounds there or up here maybe. But here actually, while having the opportunity of stretching those samples and EQing it differently on the bottom, I think I kind of created a new instrument itself there. And you can still hear it's a Wurlitzer, but it's kind of tuned down, and I love the sound of it. Again, don't forget, you can always choose your different IR. Let's listen to a couple of other sounds. Lovely stuff. Stars, one of my other favorites. Can't get enough of those sparkly things. Hypnotic reverser. It's funny, in certain sounds you can really hear where it comes from, the source. In this one I feel is especially raw. Absolutely love it. Then let's go to the one shots. So here I've captured my whirly dry, for example. Of course, you can add your reverb, as said before. OPW's 80s whirly. Bit of fun. Huge reverb there. Mooger whirly, another one of my favorites. Once I started creating the library, I really got into it, and I delivered a huge package of content to the software team, and they looked at me like, oh, okay. Didn't know it's going to be kind of a whole toolkit. But yeah, so here we are, and I'm really happy to be sharing this with you. So we've got some swells as well. It's actually the lead instrument of A Stone's Throw, which is the single. Pretty much basically a reversed Wurlitzer. Some other swells that I really love are these shooting sparkling stars. I played them in the beginning actually. So actually won't bother playing that too much again, as you already heard it. Soothing touch. Some subtle modulation going on there. Again, the swells, it's a similar concept, but you can really choose what kind of sounds you want and alter it with the release as well. So if you want kind of a short stop. Then I've included some percussion. There's quite a bit of percussion on the album as well. I've recorded the fantastic percussionist Juan Espiga in Madrid. He's got an amazing collection of percussion instruments, kind of world percussion instruments. And again, I've really got into it once I started sampling and recording things. I started putting it through effects, etc., and really creating a bit of percussion tool there. So this is one of the favela percussions. So they take off the lid of the PET bottles and put it on a string, like maybe 20 of them or 40 of them, and then you can kind of shake it and it makes that sound. Here is like stereo pans. I love that sound, it's just so warm. Claps, my claps. Very interesting there. Again, I think these are castanets. You can hear the difference. They're a bit lighter in sound. Yeah, castanets. That's the Kenyan percussion hammer, I believe. Rain stick shaken. And then I've created some rim shots in a couple of my tracks. And if you listen to Vieux Farka Touré and Idan Reichel's project, the Tel Aviv session or the Paris session, you hear the percussion player playing the udu, and they have a stick as well, and it creates this kind of rim shot sound, and I got heavily inspired by that. You will hear later on I created a loop as well, which I've included. And then treated hits is I've taken sounds from several drum machines. I've got one at home which I've sampled, and I put effects on each individual hit, etc. I asked some friends to send me some drum machine samples, etc. So you got some lovely kicks. They're all from a different track, so they're all tuned specifically in the key of the track. This is actually my piano lid, filtered out. That's quite nice. Some snare sounds. This is tempo synced as well. One of my favorite sounds actually on the album. It's on Santa Teresa. The beat comes in halfway through the middle bit. And you have this really distinct kind of sound here. I think it's a conga from a drum machine, which I've filtered out and delayed, and a slight distortion, etc. So very cool stuff there, I feel. There's not much reverb or no reverb on there at the moment. Actually, this evolution reverb, I think, is the closest that comes to plate. Oh, this one, actually. This one is crunched paper, which I put on a kick, I believe, just to kind of shine through a little bit. Is it in the Troubled Minds, maybe? And then here you just got the individual hits, castanets, claps, favela percussion hits, goatnail hits, Kenyan hammer, rain stick, etc. And then we've got some loops as well. So the goat drum loop, here are the raw loops. All tempo synced, then I put it through effects and delays. I mean, this stuff is brilliant for picture as well, like kind of an action or a chase scene. So yeah, I really hope you get inspired by these sounds. Just quickly here on the side, how you can look for them. So if you have the album and if you're interested what kind of sounds I've used on each track, so a bit more of an interactive playing and go behind my work, then you can click here, Dear Friends, one of the tracks, and then you can see what sounds I've used. Of course, you might be looking for the strings. The strings feature heavily on my album, but to be honest, I work for Spitfire Audio and I'm not going to try and create a strings library here. And also, I mean, I can tell you I was heavily inspired by the LCO and all the work Spitfire Audio has done with them, and kind of a lot of articulations came from them, or I got to know through the library as well. But all the quartet on the album, that's all played live and orchestrated and arranged, so there's no like samples on there. But again, I've included here in this library some specific sounds that I've created, and again, you can go through them and use what I've used here per track, but then also I've categorized them, you know, a little bit what I feel. If you look for something dreamy or ambience, some hits or loops, then you can filter that out. Otherworldly stuff, I played you that before, percussion or the piano instruments, and it just kind of filters it out for you. And I think that's about it. I'm hugely excited. Again, I hope you get to enjoy the library and my album as well. And if you have any questions, just shoot me a message. I'm happy to help you out. I'm sure Spitfire Audio will be happy to help you out. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye bye.